All right, little country music.
Morning, folks. We got a good one coming your way. Coy Davidson's joining us. 30 years he's earned his say. For the coffee, let the day roll and slow.
Good morning, everyone. It is Social Surge.
Here we go. Coy's been walking these halls since before.
Gotta let Coy listen to his song.
Excellent. Loved it. I love it.
You got deals to close. We'll carry the load. Social
Yeah, it's amazing.
Good morning, everybody. It is Social Surge. I'm Mo Regalado over there on that side, and down below is my ride or die, my boo. What the heck, Hector Regalado, and in between us is the man of the hour, Mr. Coy Davidson. Good morning, Holly Pennington. Thanks for joining us over on the gram. Looking forward to this conversation. Holly says she loves the music.
Good. Glad you liked it.
It is a custom song that What the Heck did for Coy today. So
Took me a few tries.
it took a few tries. We were trying to do classic rock, but it was coming out bad.
It wasn't coming out.
Either is good.
All right, Coy Davidson is our guest today. He is the OG of commercial, I want to say the commercial real estate blogging. We're going to let him tell that part of the story. But first, Mr. Coy Davidson, you and I first got to meet at in Orlando at
Yes.
CREI Summit. You and I sat and talked on the stairs for I want to say almost an hour. And we talked about social media. We talked about X. We talked about all the things. But let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about Coy, how Coy got involved in commercial real estate, and then your social media journey.
Okay, well, I've been in the business a long, long time. I think it's been 36 years now. When I graduated from the University of Texas, the economy in Texas was horrible. But I managed to land a job. And I worked at a big industrial construction company in their finance department for about a year and a half. And I got laid off because the Texas economy was just terrible. And I went back to start working on my MBA at the University of Houston. And I was sitting in class one day, and one of my finance professors said, anybody interested in doing an internship at a commercial real estate brokerage company for 3 hours credit? And I raised my hand, and off I went. And then 6 months later, I had my license, and I was working there. So that's how I started in the business. Fast forward as far as how I started with social media and blogging and content marketing was, I'd been in the business for, at that point, this is 2008-ish. I'd been in the business for, at that point, 15 plus years, and had some success. And then the great financial crisis hit, and we all took it on the chin. And our businesses just shrunk dramatically. And we were all sitting around trying to figure out how do we navigate through this. And I had been watching what the residential real estate community was doing with social media. They had already kind of grasped, the social media platforms, Facebook, et cetera. And at that time, LinkedIn was just evolving, and X was just being birthed, and but Facebook was a big thing. And I noticed that the realtors were really utilizing this platform to try to drive market awareness about who they were and to drive new business. So I took a look around the commercial real estate landscape, and I literally couldn't find anyone that was doing it, or literally you could count them on one hand. And I was nervous about it.
It was you, and it was Duke Long, right?
And
Alan Buchanan, because I know Alan Buchanan started his blog in 2008, 2009.
Right. Alan actually called me when I started mine. But yeah, there was just a couple of people, and we were experimenting. I was a little nervous about what my brokerage colliers would think, but they were actually supportive. And I just dove in. So I wanted to have my own website, which is called the Tenant Advisor at coydavidson.com. So I created that. And then I already had a personal Facebook account, but I created a business page. And then I got my LinkedIn profile going and my Instagram profile going. And I discovered X, Twitter at the time. And that was the one I really gravitated to and began to slowly find people. We began to slowly find each other online, and it just took off. I didn't know how it would go, but all of a sudden, my name was, reporters were calling me for comments, and my name was getting out there. And although I was pretty well known in the Houston community, nobody outside of Houston knew who I was. So it was a big boom, and just creating market awareness, because I think half the battle in our business is just educating on people as to who you are and what you do. Because if you say you're in real estate, like we always joke in commercial, like you be at a cocktail party, you say in real estate, and they'll ask you how much their house is worth. I'm like, I don't have any idea how much your house is worth. But anyway, it's an education process. Half the battle is just people finding you to understand who you are and what you do. So if they have a need for your services, they might consider you.
When did you first realize that you had hit on something rather big with your blogging and with the social media?
A couple examples, but I'll tell you later about a couple of pretty big deals that birthed themselves from social media. But I think it was a couple years in, and I had begun writing about commercial real estate. And do you remember when we had the offshore Horizon oil disaster off of the coast of Louisiana?
Yeah.
And I wrote an article because all the offshore drillers are headquartered in Houston, and I wrote an article on my blog, basically writing about what the impact, because Obama was president at the time, and he put a moratorium on offshore drilling after that happened for a period of time. And I wrote an article about it on my blog and how it might impact the Houston office space market, which, I'm a tenant rep and I specialize in office and healthcare. So I wrote this article, and it didn't get a lot of traction at first, but then about after a week later, lo and behold, I opened the Wall Street Journal, and there's an article in the Wall Street Journal talking about what impact the drilling moratorium would have on the office market in Houston. And I read this article, and it's a very famous newspaper named after a famous financial street in New York City. So they basically just stole my story, called one of my competitors to get a comment, and they did not call me. And I was pretty angry about it.
Yeah.
Still to this day have a little bit of a grudge against that newspaper. But
did you was there any legal action? Like, did you?
No, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything about it. Just went about my business. But then about 3 days later, the local CBS television affiliate here in Houston called me and said, I came across your article and we want to interview you about this. And I thought to myself, okay, they're just going to send a guy to my office. He's going to ask me a few questions. He's going to write the story. He's going to put my name in it. Well, they show up at the office with a full camera crew. And you got to remember, this is the early days of social media, and we didn't know what our brokerages were going to think about it. And the office just freaked out. They were like, why is there a full camera crew here?
What did you do, Coy?
Here they're here to talk to. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going for it, whatever. And some of the people were like, only the partners can talk to the media and da 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 da. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing this. They were okay with it. And I did the interview, and then it aired that evening on the 6 o'clock news. And then my phone rang all night long. I saw you on the news. I saw you on the news. So that was really the aha moment. when I'm like, all right, if the world's #1 financial newspaper is reading my blog and finding stories, then I'm having an impact.
Right.
If they're stealing, I can't, that is, I don't think I knew that, one, which is surprising. But two, like my personality, I would have been all over that like white on rice. I would have been calling people up and being like, I published this on this date. You can see the timestamp.
Right.
And if we look at, because even then we were talking about duplicate content. Like the fact that somebody, I'm sure you could have taken a look at both articles and been like, 80% of this article is mine.
Right. Well, they actually went and called one. If they'd have just called me to get the quote, that would have been fine. But they called one of my competitors, and so like I wasn't going to notice.
Now, what did your office think about all that as it was?
It kind of opened their eyes. And then another story is I remember about it maybe 6 months. They were like, all right, this is a new frontier. Let him do it. He's responsible. He's not doing anything crazy. He's not writing anything crazy online. And then I remember maybe 6 months later, one of the teams in our office that does office leasing was pitching a big portfolio assignment, and they had a bunch of people in the room. I was not involved with this at all. I'm just working in my office. And the story goes, so they're pitching like this 12 portfolio listing, and the ownership asked. They looked to the team and they said, "Well, what's your social media strategy for our property?" And they're all just like, "Oh, deer in the headlights." Looking, the president of our company time said, "Go see if Coy's in his office." So that kind of woke them up. It was evolving. Now all of a sudden, property owners were thinking about social media in terms of marketing their property. So that was kind of another aha moment. And then I also remember being at the Colliers National Conference in around 2013, 2014. There's 1,000 Colliers brokers there. And it's in the evening when everybody kind of just congregates around the hotel bar and networks. There's hundreds of people down there, and the CEO of Colliers at the time, Doug Fry, is there, and I'm sitting there minding my own business, having a beer with a couple of guys, shooting the bull, talking business. And this lady comes over and taps me on the shoulder, and it was the CEO, Doug Fry's assistant. She said, "Do you have 5 minutes to spend with Doug?" And I'm like, "Well, of course I have 5 minutes to spend with the CEO of our company." So we go over and sit at a table by ourselves, and everybody, all the brokers peacocking around the bar, like, "Why is Coy talking to Doug Fry? Why is Coy talking to Doug Fry?" And Doug looked at me and he just said, "Coy, I want to compliment you," because I was scared I was in trouble. It's like, "You got to take your website down." And Doug looks at me and he goes, "Coy, I want to commend you for having the vision to doing what you're doing. I think it's the future, and we're 100% behind you. And in fact, could you help us write our social media policies?" So,
oh wow!
When I got that thumb of approval from the CEO of our entire brokerage company, that was kind of, at that point, nobody questioned what I was doing anymore.
I love the fact that they actually, so with this story, I love the fact that they actually pulled you in to talk to you, somebody as a practitioner who
Right.
is online, who is using these resources to help guide and formulate the policies. Because the biggest challenge I see with a lot of big brokerages is they have people who don't use social to market, create the rules on what you do on social.
Right.
And you sit there and you're like, this is happening now. I have to go through an approval process that's going to take about 2 to 3 weeks. By the time you tell me that I can post it, it's old
Right.
news.
Right.
Right. And I think that's the biggest challenge that a lot of these bigger firms don't understand, is that social is about speed, right? And this also comes down to content creation. Lots of people will create content and then they sit on it because they want it to be perfect. And like we tell people, get it to 80%. Get it to 80% and post it. It doesn't have to be perfect to put it out there, right?
Right.
Yes.
But you have to do it with speed. You can't just sit on something and be like, well, you know, I'm gonna debate this in my head a little bit. No,
Right.
just put it out there. Social moves so friggin' fast that, you know, this with Twitter. I mean, this was a stat in 2016 that on Twitter, that if you had an audience of say 500, like say you had 500 followers, within 17 minutes of you posting a tweet, only half of your audience would actually see that. And then
Right.
every 9 minutes after that, half the audience would see it. So that's why, like, we were tweeting when I worked for another company, we were tweeting like every 15 minutes. And I was the one putting all the tweets out. So like, I'm sitting there scheduling tweets, right?
Right.
Because we had a cool scheduling service, which was eventually purchased by Buffer, which pissed me off. But we had this great scheduling service where I could schedule tweets, but every 15 minutes we were tweeting something out for that company. That's how fast we were moving.
I mean, it's really pretty simple. I just try to follow, you know, I stay away from politics. I stay away from religion. I stay away from controversial subjects. I just don't want to post anything. I mean, I try to show some personality on Twitter. You know, LinkedIn's a little more formal, but just don't try to post anything. I ask myself, I mean, I've drafted a lot of tweets, a lot of posts, and erase them. It's like, no, there's that little bit of risk here, and I don't want to go there. I'm there.
What the heck?
I'm there to create market presence. I'm not there to see how many millions of views I can get. That's why I don't rage bait.
Yeah, what the heck is my voice of reason? I'll get pissed and I'll not like nobody understood that already, right? That he's the
Right.
voice of reason.
Right.
But I'll be sitting there and I'll be tweeting something out, and then I'll stop and I'll be like, should I tweet this? And so I ask him, I'm like, should I say this? And he goes, no.
No. Time and a place. Time and place.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What does the path look like from content to conversation? Right. So like when somebody finally reaches out to you, what does that look like?
Like they reach out because they saw my content and then they want to
Right.
potentially do business with
and
me.
now
I've always felt like, first of all, for me, most of my business is market presence, word of mouth, referrals, because I've been doing it a long time. And I think what happens is an executive sitting with another executive and he says, man, my office lease is coming up. And then he says, well, you should call my broker, Coy Davidson. He's fantastic. And then what happens, that person immediately goes online and Googles me and sees what they find. I think I get more business that way versus because I work with corporations and big health systems, and I don't think they go online to find a broker. I mean, you do get internet leads if somebody doesn't have a relationship and they like, who's the best healthcare broker in Houston? That might maybe I come up, but I think more of it is just validation of when someone recommends you or does a referral, and then they go online and then they see all my content and then they see, you know, my track record. And I'm like, all right, this guy's very qualified. Let me call him. If we connect personally, then, you know, I'm going to hire this guy. And that's kind of how it happens for me. Now, other people may be different. Now, certainly I've had random just people find me on the internet and I say I need some help, and they turned out to be, you know, a decent transaction. But I think you asked me about a bigger one. I had posted, and I used to do this every quarter, our market reports come out and everybody says, don't post your market reports, they're boring. But I just did a summary of the Houston, Dallas, and Austin, called it the Texas office market update. And then it was just a summary comparing Houston, Dallas, and Austin office rental rate and stats, right? Okay. And I'm sitting in my office on a Friday afternoon. It's quiet, like on most Friday afternoons, and my phone rings and I answer the phone, and it was the was a chief financial officer of a publicly traded New York Stock Exchange company. And he said, I was Googling around online and I found your article about the Texas office market. And he said, could you come in and talk to us next week? And what was going on is the CEO, the company was headquartered in Houston, but the CEO lived in Dallas, Fort Worth, and he was traveling to Houston every week, 4 days a week, and then going home. And he was tired of it. And they were sitting relocating to Dallas, Fort Worth, but they might stay in Houston. Anyway, so they called me and said, would you come in? And I go into the presentation with all my materials. And, really at that point, they had already done all their research on me because they had found my website and they saw my track record and they knew I was qualified. So I was able to go in and just, I'm not trying to pitch who I am and what I do. They already know this. And I'm asking, what are your issues? How can I solve them? Sales 101. And, I get the account and no competition from my other major competitors. They sign my exclusive rep and I go to work and we end up relocating them to Dallas, Fort Worth. And it was the commission on that transaction was right at $700,000 just because I wrote an article and the guy found me.
And you found it. Yeah, that's amazing. So looking at how that those kind of deals come through, it does show that having that presence online is beneficial, right? I mean, like you said, you're not necessarily waiting for somebody to find you on X or on LinkedIn or anything like that, but your material, they're already researching.
Right.
And when you come across your information, and this, and this is something that when I did residential real estate, we talked about is not everybody is going to align with you, right? Your viewpoints are going to be slightly different from, other people's.
Right.
And you're not trying to you're not trying to transact with everybody, but in that, as long as you're putting out material, there's going to be one individual that's going to find you and connect with you, right? And that's what it seems like. I think a lot of people are misunderstanding about online presence. It's not necessarily that you're waiting for that call because you just posted something. You're establishing who you are and how you do business.
Right.
And they connect.
Hector still gets calls, and he hasn't been in residential since 22.
Yeah.
22. He did it for a year and a half, sold 11 houses. It was fine. He could have kept doing it. It was good. A year and a half, sell 11 houses. That's not a bad deal. But he did several videos in Spanish because he's a native Spanish speaker. And one of those is on TikTok, and he still gets phone calls 4 years later for people who are Spanish speakers who are looking to buy a house here in the area. And that's just kind of, it's so weird that the video is 4 years old, 5 years old now. And he's like, I don't do residential real estate anymore. I'm sorry, but you can call these people and maybe they can help you out. But it's just one of those things that think about how people are doing search now and how they're looking for things. And Hector, I'm sorry to cut you off. We'll come back to what you're saying, but I have a thought in my head. Are you being recommended by AI right now because of your body of work online? Like, are people contacting you and saying, hey, I found you because of ChatGPT?
Yes, that's happening. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I got a call from someone who said his lease was coming up. He was located in downtown Houston. He needed some space. And so I went through the conversation with them, qualified him. How much space do you need? When's your lease up? Just all the typical things a tenant rep broker would do in this situation. At the end of the conversation, I asked him, I said, I'm always curious, how you got my name and who recommended me. And he said, that's kind of funny. It wasn't a he or she, it was ChatGPT.
Isn't that amazing?
And I have noticed that. I watch my website analytics and I see where my traffic comes from. And increasingly it's coming from, Google search is still number one. And for me, X is still number two, but the large language models are increasingly providing traffic to my website.
So did you build your website yourself, or did you have somebody help you out with that?
I originally built my website myself in the early days. It's just a WordPress website. And then after about 4 or 5 years ago, I hired Dave Luan with CRE Grow, who to redo my website, and he's my guy now. He's fantastic. Get a plug there, Dave.
He didn't he do the CREI Summit website too?
He did.
Yep.
It's like it was time to spend a little money and make it a little more functional and professional, and he optimizes it for all those type things.
Yeah, I think that's it's important to have that aspect side of it, and I love the fact that you know your analytics for your website and where it's coming from, because a lot of people are missing out, particularly when it comes to, as much as we talk about AI and the language learning models, right? The LLMs, your website still needs to be optimized for SEO, and now it needs to be optimized for AEO and GEO, right? So there's things that need to happen. And when you can see those tags, and when I'm talking about tags, for people who don't understand, when somebody clicks on your website, it will actually tell you if you have Google Analytics set up, you can see the refer for that link in the URL, right?
Right.
And so being able to quantify that. So when I'm sure, Coy, you get asked all the time, what's the ROI of social media? What's the ROI of having a blog? You can actually say, hey, I know exactly where this stuff is coming from.
Right. And there's another, not to get off base, but you asked about how this, I work for Colliers, and we have offices all over the world, all over the country. And because of my social media presence, people know what I do. So I do a lot of healthcare real estate. And so everybody knows, all my Colliers colleagues around the country that do healthcare know that I specialize in this niche. So when they have a requirement in Houston, who do they call? They call me every time. So, and it's because it's not that I haven't got to know them over years at conferences or worked on transactions with them in word of mouth, but they've all seen me on LinkedIn and Twitter and my website. And it gets back to market presence again. So, and even if you're at a smaller brokerage company or a independent boutique, you're probably, same applies to your networks, your SIR network or your CCIM network. If they know who you are and you're top of mind when they have a client that has a requirement in your market, you're the person they're going to call.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Capturing that top of mind is so important, right? And these platforms give you that edge. It gives you that it gives you something that you can use to open up to markets you might not be in. But like you said, if somebody in another market knows they're going to refer you.
What they care about is you're going to help them. You're going to take good care of their client. And you're going to provide value. And if you've built that reputation, you got a track record, those referrals will keep coming.
Are you surprised that even now in brokerage, with as much success as you've had, and you've talked about it, right? With blogging, with being on social, with keeping top of mind awareness out there, with your market presence, are you surprised that there's still some people totally resistant to being on social or having any kind of digital footprint?
No, it's not the only way to generate business. Some people are, they go in and make 100 cold calls a day. I've never been that person. Some people, or for lack of a better term, country club brokers, they hang out at the country club a lot. And then there's a lot of successful ways to get business. And social's just one, but it does support all those other efforts. So if you cold call somebody, they've already heard of you, you've got an advantage. If you meet somebody at the country club, you said, "Oh, I see you on Twitter all the time," or I follow you on LinkedIn. That helps. I think part of the problem is brokers are successful, whether they're really great cold callers or really great networkers, and they've had success with that, and they just don't understand social. They think they should be doing it, but they don't know how to go about doing it, or they're really bad at doing it, and all they know to do is post. All they know to do is post their closed deals and new listings on LinkedIn, and it's really obvious to just scroll through your LinkedIn feed, and you can see who understands what they're doing and who doesn't understand what they're doing. Because they only post something when they close a deal.
Right.
I rarely ever post. I mean, I have, but I don't post a lot about my transactions when I don't want the whole world knowing about it. Number one, if it's more pretty publicly known, then I'll do it. But I try to add some value and not just look at me. Most brokers are still just, even young people, they don't understand.
Right.
There's an art to it. There's an art to it.
Right. Yeah. Marketing isn't just like you said. It's not just posting random. There's a reason. You need to have a reason, and honestly, that also shows your personality, right? And that's where, again, that connection comes with some of the clients that will find you, is that they see you as a human, as a person, versus just somebody they're either going to call and get numbers and like, okay, what can you do? They want to build a relationship with you, and this is just the beginning of it.
Right.
Let's switch gears and talk about CREI Summit. CREI Summit is going to be in Savannah, Georgia this year, September 23rd through the 25th. You can find out more about that at CREISummit.com. Both Coy and I we've been on lists, and I think probably Coy's the OG. he is the OG list for CREI Summit. Coy, tell me how you got involved. Because I've heard you tell stories before. When we've been on X Spaces Live about CREI Summit. So why don't you share with the audience how you became involed?
Well, I really had a lot to do with it, because if you remember back during the pandemic, when we were all locked down and craving for social interaction with people, and there was a couple women, Casey Flannery and Melissa Alexander, who used to do a thing called CRE Chat once a month on Thursday evenings. And everybody that was on Retweet, ex Twitter at the time in our community, would get on this Thursday night and just go back and forth. They'd have a few questions, people would answer. And it was the middle of the pandemic, or getting towards the end of the pandemic, and I made a comment on the CRE Chat event on Twitter that night. It's like, wouldn't it be great if we could all just get together in person? And about 30 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was Mr. Ken Ashley, who founded the CREI Summit. He goes, let's do this. And I said, Ken, I'm the worst person in the world to organize an event, but let's do it. So you go for it. And Ken, being the guy that he is, he put that event together, and our first year was in Lake Tahoe, I think in 2021. I can't even remember.
I think it was 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, 21. And off we have event. It's my favorite event of the year of all this. I go to a lot of real estate conferences, but that's by far my favorite. And I think especially that first year when we were in Lake Tahoe, because I had spent years talking online with many of these people, but I had never met them in real life. And then
Right.
when you meet in real life, it's kind of magical. Like you already feel like you know them. It's like when I met you in Orlando, I already feel like I knew you, right?
You're like, Mo.
So, so yeah, that's how it all started, and it's grown every year. It's gotten better every year. The education and the content's gotten better every year. I'm looking forward to this year, and it's not just social media anymore. Like we've addressed the whole large language model, AI, how that's impacting our business. That will be a big part of our program this coming year. So I highly recommend the event. I've never been to a CRE conference where there was such an abundance mentality amongst everyone and willing to share and help each other. And maybe this will sound a little bad, but like, there's always you go to a real estate conference, there's always some peacocking going on, you just don't see that there. Everybody's just,
I was going to say, I don't think we see that there at all. Like everybody's just like,
approachable.
okay, you need answers for this. All right, we'll get you answers, right? Or you're having a challenge with posting something. Let's walk you through the process. And literally we're on our phones, like walking somebody through the process of how to do something.
Right.
And it is because we do have this community where we're all involved. We talk online, we comment on each other's content. And so when you do finally get to meet somebody in real life that you haven't met, it's like you're meeting a long lost friend.
Right.
I think the biggest challenge for newcomers, so this is just my opinion, is the amount of information that you receive.
Right.
Because it can be very, very overwhelming with like, okay, these are the best practices. This is what we're finding works best. We're practitioners using this on a daily basis. What do you think a first-time attendee should do to get the most from it?
Maybe that's a good question. One, it's a fairly small conference compared to a real estate conference. We're talking 200 people. So number one, you have the opportunity to meet everyone. That's number one. So don't be bashful about going up to someone, because I promise you they're going to be receptive to talking to you. And maybe number two, if there's something you're thinking about doing from a marketing standpoint, whether I want to start a podcast or I want to start a blog, or I just want to, why is everybody on X? You just pick a couple things that you think are on your agenda, something you might want to do, and then seek out those people at the event who have done it and know what they're doing and are willing to help you and share their expertise. But I just don't be afraid to walk. I mean, I remember in Orlando, the first time we met, and I had never met Bob Knackle in person before, but we had talked on the phone. We certainly knew each other. We communicated online. We had a phone call one time. But I remember I walked through the front doors of the hotel in Orlando, and the first person I see is Bob Knackle. And I walk over to him, and I'm like, I kind of reach out to shake my hand. He just gives me a big bear hug. Like, it's like I'd known the guy. It's like I'd known the guy all my life, and just because we've communicated online, he felt like we knew each other. So
right.
So don't be nobody's too big to talk to, or nobody's you're as important as if you're new, and you can walk up to anyone in that conference and they're going to be receptive.
Ben says, last year was my first conference. Everybody was so warm and welcoming. I walked away with a whole slew of new friends. Show up and be open. And if you're a wallflower, I'll find you and say hello. So that's actually hilarious, because we met Ben at the conference, and then SIOR had their spring event at the same hotel in Palm Desert. And as it ends up happening, Hector, myself, Ben, his wife, and Simon and we end up going to In and Out to go get burgers. So now anytime that we are in the same city, it is established that we are going to go find an In and Out if they have an In and Out there, so we can go have lunch or dinner. And it's just kind of one of those funny things where you create these relationships that you weren't expecting to have, and there's a commonality, right? And I had actually initially met Bob at MassimoCon in 22. We didn't actually have a conversation, and then he and I started working together in January of 23, and we talked, obviously we talk on the phone, blah blah blah. But I didn't actually really get to spend any time with BK until the Orlando conference.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, and that's just, think about that. I'd been working with him for, 8-9 months and hadn't really gotten to see him in person. And then being able to make that connection, being able to get that hug, was just, it really is impactful, because then you just like, this is a person. This is somebody that I'm working with, that I'm dealing with. And it's almost magical, right? It's such a cool thing to experience. What would you say to because I've actually had calls lately with people who are like, why should I come to CREI Summit? And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Let me explain the ways. Why do you think somebody should come to the summit?
Because I think that, one, I think it's just the best conference in terms of the aura and the people there. So you're going to make friends. You're going to make lifelong friendships with people. But back to there's no other conference that I can think of. Whether you go to a SIR conference or a CCIM conference or any type of organization, they're going to donate. They're going to allot some amount of time for this subject matter: market presence, digital marketing, digital tools, social media. There'll be a session for an hour. But this is the only place I know that's totally dedicated to this for 2 days, and multiple sessions, and everybody that's leading those sessions is doing and has done and has had success with whatever platform, approach, tactic, strategy you're using. So if you think this stuff's going away, it's not, they were saying it's going to go away 10 years ago. And then now we're in this whole new world with AI. And I mean, for me personally, that's the content I want to learn about.
So that's what you're looking for.
I'm doing my best I can on my own, learning it and asking questions and experimenting. But if there's someone there that's really an expert at it, man, I want 10 minutes with them.
Right. Exactly. Having that FaceTime and being able to ask them those really in-depth questions where you can get answers to like, hey, how do I do this? Right. Are you speaking this year?
Yes.
Are you on a panel?
I'm on 2 panels.
Which panels are you on?
I'm on the opening day panel, talking about what you just asked me. How do you get the most out of the CREA Summit? And then I'm doing one of the breakout sessions on blogging. Okay.
Yeah, I am doing, so Hector and I actually are going to, I think we have a 2-hour time block for Create Labs. So people can come up and ask me questions about social media and the whole marketing, marketing ecosystem. Hector will be focusing on websites and CRMs. So anybody who has questions can then come up and ask about website CRMs. And then I have a breakout session with Kyle and Sarah. We'll be talking about Google Business Profile and agentic search. What's cool about that is he has somebody from Google that we're going to talk to before. So we actually have the insider information as to Google Business Profile and how to optimize it for agentic search. So I'm really,
so
really
that's
excited about
that's cool because I'm actually interested in that because for all my experience with blogging and social media, I've been trying to work on my Google Business Profile, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I picked up some tips, but that's a great example. That's something even for all my years of doing this. I don't understand all the ins and outs of Google Business Profiles. So that would be an
and
interesting topic too.
You can get business from it. I mean,
sure, absolutely.
We've last year I did a session on Google Business with
Dre Campbell.
Thank you, Dr. Dre Campbell, the whitest Dr. Dre out of Boise, Idaho, and he's I think he said it like he's easily made $500,000 from his Google Business Profile,
right?
Because he has reviews on there and he's very consistent about posting,
Very
and so
active.
it's just one of those things that a lot of people don't think about, and sometimes it's a challenge for brokers because of the way that their brokerage is set up, or
right.
Stuff like that. But it is important to have because agentic search is pulling reviews from there. It is pulling content from there. And yeah, I mean, Russell says Google page is a great source of traction. Yes, 100%. I'm hoping, Coy, that you and I don't have sessions at the same time. I was trying to look at the website right now. Like, okay, hopefully if we have sub sessions at the same time, you won't be able to attend. But yeah, no, it's going to be a great event. If anybody's questioning, you go look at the agenda, CREISummit.com. We are probably, we're looking at, so far, I know we have well over 100 people signed up. So, and I know Ken likes to keep it somewhat intimate. So it's not going to be 500 people there. We're going to be between probably 150 to 200 folks who are attending. And it makes it super intimate. You can have conversations. Like I said, Coy and I met in Orlando, and had a great conversation just sitting on the steps, and being able to talk about, what's happening in social. Coy, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
Easiest way to find me, my website is coydavidson.com, and on X at Coy Davidson CRE, and you can just put my name in LinkedIn.
You can put my name in LinkedIn. Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you, Coy, so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy, your effort, and of course, I appreciate you. I will unlock you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you both in just a few weeks.
Yes. It's not that far away. It's getting close.
It is
getting close.
around the corner.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.
Have a great day.
Tuesday at the same bat time, same bat channel. Bye.